Hello, welcome to Unfiltered on WILI 1400 AM, 95.3 FM. And today in studio we've got Chris Reddy and Curtis Ehler. We're ready for another interesting show. We've got all kind of stuff going on. We're going to start off with some local issues that are happening, the budget. As everybody knows, Curtis is on the Board of Finance now, and I'm town council, and we just moved the budget along to finance. And it's not looking too promising for the residents. What's your opinions, and what do you see happening here in Curtis?
Well, the listeners need to know that there's still room to move here. There's still steps left in the budget process. You and the town council just decided to pass on the work that you had done onto the Board of Finance. This now, the general government budget goes before the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance is allowed to assess things department by department. We don't have the ability to adjust each line, but we do look at the sum total of the budget and go department by department and figure out what's reasonable. So there's room for things to move up or move down, but at this point, it looks like the general government is through the town council is looking for a 1.45 mill rate increase. Now that Mike is for our average homeowner, assuming your home is worth about $130,000, that's over a couple $100 more a year, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's looking. It was a 206, I believe, is what they were saying per 100,000.
Hey, my math isn't that bad. Can I get an attaboy?
Yeah. Good job,
Thank
Curtis.
you.
It's really when you think about it, it's really drowning to people. Harsh reality. You look at these numbers and you hear 206, you hear all these other numbers that are coming out. We hear public benefits, we hear all this stuff, but we don't really see the actuals that are happening behind the scenes. And today I saw something that was just horrible. A family being displaced, the marshal in front of the house, the U-Hauls, just moving their stuff out because they cannot keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm so worried that this is something that's going to be spreading. This is the kind of stuff that when we propose these new buildings, these new fancy things, that we're not everybody's thinking of. A big question when we were talking about the rec center, the community center, the senior center, whatever we're calling it today. At the time I was all in favor of a modest senior center.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's something that we definitely needed. What we got was not what we needed. And when questions were asked by several people in the community, myself included, what's this going to cost to run this place? We were told it's grants, it's this, it's that. No, it's not, and we forget about the operating costs. This kind of project is really killing the community.
Exactly. The more so the rec side. Again, we have a different name for every year. But let's call it the community center on this show. It will change by the end of the show, but for this show, let's call it the community center. Really the rec side. Yeah, you're talking about really serious, expensive, long-term operating costs. Now, I never learned how to swim. That's I'm admitting it here in public for the first time, folks. I know it's breaking news. It'll be in the Chronicle tomorrow morning.
Yep.
But I never learned how to swim. But I do know a thing or two about public pools. My family is very involved with the city of Hartford, particularly their parks and recreation. Their PRAC is a point of pride of my family. The work that they do in their parks and recreation department. My mother's name is all over it. I'm always proud of her. But what I've learned is over the years, over the decades, the unbelievable rising costs of operating a pool in terms of insurances, in terms of heating and electrical costs. Yeah, but yeah, particularly liability as well. You have to employ people that have very specific certifications, very specific qualifications. You have to staff the heck out of these places. Your general liability goes through the roof. A lot of these towns have separate policies just to cover their pools. Now, just a little over a year ago, when Jim Rivers was still our town manager, we were staring down the barrel of using those federal COVID dollars to build another outdoor pool
Right.
over at Louder Park.
I remember.
In place of the splash park. Why fix what we've got when we can tear it down and put something that costs even more to run in its place? So it's tough because we were really sold a bill of goods that yes, we could build all these things, grants and fees, and they'll pay for themselves. People will move in and raise up the property values because it's going to be a new day in Wyndham. If we just build a parking garage, if we just build an indoor pool, if we just build bathrooms at the Shabu stage,
Right.
it's going to be a new day in Wyndham. And what do we get? We get a grand list that's growing slower than inflation. We have costs that are rising faster than inflation. What we're going to be seeing, folks, if this budget passes as is not only are your taxes go up, your services are going down. This budget is a disaster. This budget is a disaster. No one's happy about what happened. We are losing tons of staff. We are losing tons of capacity. I will not be shocked if we're losing hours and days at the library by the way that the director is talking about it. This budget is a failure of responsible governance from years and years and years of poor investment. Simple as that.
And you're not going to get any relief from the state side either. We see now as what's going on in Hartford, even over the past couple weeks, it's just more unfunded mandates that are being pushed onto these small communities at a greater cost to our local towns here within this district. And when you look at the costs that are incurred the most with education and municipal expenses, like you said, services within the town, when we have these 1,400 unfunded mandates being passed down on us, we look for relief somewhere. We're not getting it from the town when each year after year after year, property taxes go up. The state increases the amount of money they want and all the hidden taxes that we've seen and talked about on my show also right now. The same thing's going to be happening this year. We're not going to be seeing relief in our electric bills. We're not going to be seeing relief in our insurance premiums. We're not going to be seeing relief in our property taxes. Affordability is going to continue to be a concern. So you are accurately bringing up what you did at the beginning of the show, describing someone who unfortunately is being displaced from their home.
Right.
That is something that I see because affordability is not being addressed properly.
Oh, there's plenty of lip service, but when it comes down to brass tacks, I mean, where are these people from the state to save us? They're not there. They're tacking on more mandates, more costs for the town.
I mean, we've got everybody says, go talk to your representatives, go talk to this one, go talk to that one. We sit in on these budget meetings, and I have to say this time there were quite a few people on the town council that were, really concerned and interested in making some cuts. But I think we're at the point where, your basic cuts that you can look at and see are not enough. No. They're just not enough. And then you've got, like you had said earlier, we've got people that are coming in. It's costing us sometimes more to have a budget meeting than what we're doing at the meeting.
Mike, I don't know how you do it, because while I'm sitting out there in the audience, while all you up there at the town council, you'll spend 2-3 hours deliberating over $1,000, $5,000 total. Meanwhile, there's 6, 7, 8 department heads all sitting out there waiting for you to ask them a question. That $1,000, $5,000 that you end up cutting at the end of that 3-hour session.
Sure.
Oh, you just ate that up in the comp time of the guys sitting out there in the crowd, because they're not working for free, folks.
Right. They're there, and this is adding to the problem. And we have counselors that there's a couple that just don't understand. We've got one that was throwing a childish, I don't know what you want to call it, a temper tantrum. He comes in late. He doesn't make half the stuff. I don't think he's been to a meeting on time since we've been appointed on or put into position.
Okay, you narrowed it down for me.
And
I got you.
He's crying about he wants a cut in someone's pay who's already working under minimum wage, and that's his big go-to. So a couple of these people are just numb to reality.
Now, listen, I'm happy that the conservative side here, the Republican team especially, is winning the war of ideas. In this budget, we've definitely convinced people that we've been spending beyond our means and we've been making poor investments and we need to rein back. But that doesn't change the underlying issues, the continued poor investments. When you look at past the budget book, at the end, the addendum for our capital improvement plan.
Oh my gosh!
Millions of dollars, pie in the sky. No one has costed out the long-term maintenance of any of this new equipment. And what you see in there is pieces of capital equipment, heavy trucks, even light trucks, even pickups that are being replaced before their service life because no one's taking care of these damn things.
Mm-hmm. And that's big as well, And how do you get employees to take ownership of these vehicles, and do we have the people in the positions? I know we don't have in this town a facilities manager who, really takes these buildings under their wing and says, okay, we need to do this, this, and this to maintain the buildings. I don't know what is in place for the automotive section of that. But these are all big things with, maintenance. If you, at your home, if you don't change the oil in your car and you just don't do any of the maintenance, you're going to be purchasing a new car quick. You're going to be upside down in your purchase. So this all relates just on a grander scale with the town.
Exactly. These kitchen table issues, the kind of budgeting that you go home and you talk about with your family, it applies here in our small town too. You gotta take care of your house. You gotta take care of your home. And what people need to understand about this budget is, it's still going up, but the services are going down because in the span of less than 10 years, the amount of money that we're spending on our debt, I was talking about your capital improvement plan,
right?
All that gets bonded, right? We borrow that money, just loans, baby. Has grown from single digits up to, it's going to be 23% of the budget probably by the time we hit the middle of the next fiscal year. 23% of our budget is just paying back the money for all the toys that we have. That parking garage that our town couldn't live without. That swimming pool that our town couldn't live without. Now, I ask the listeners. I love that we have a robust recreation program, particularly the summer camp for kids. I think that's such an important thing. I think that keeping our kids safe and engaged in a positive program, I think that is a wonderful thing. But should we be paying 5% effectively between the staffing, the heating costs, the insurances, and the bonding? Should we be paying 5% or more of our tax bill going to a pool that dozens of residents use? Dozens.
Right. When you look at it that way, it's not heavily used. When you look at that from that perspective, and there's a lot of other issues that have been floated out there. Instead of having all these coordinators and programs, making the rec center more of a drop-in center where, you know, Johnny's Karate could come in on one night, rent the room on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you know, and have their class. And, you know, maybe a yoga on the other night, a community type thing.
Yep.
You know, and then you've got the free market taking care of itself.
Exactly.
Where, you know, the towns actually could possibly make money or at least break even on this building that we've put up.
And that's just one of many examples, but it's just again, part of me wants to declare victory, right? Because we have one budget where people are trying to be fiscally responsible, but the underlying things haven't changed. The millions of dollars in proposed borrowing for buildings that we have no people in this budget book. There's no people in this budget book to take care of.
Right.
But we wanna build a bunch of shiny new things. We want to buy a bunch of shiny new trucks, and we don't have the number of people that we need to keep on top of them. The debt keeps on growing as a proportion of our budget, and although we're winning the war of ideas, Mike, although we're getting people to understand we've got to get this budget under control, we still haven't taken care of the fundamentals. We still haven't gotten to the root cause of what's going wrong with these budgets, why we're paying more as taxpayers but getting so much less.
Right. Well, you know, a perfect example was I had personally asked one department, I said, you know, I was looking at the budget and you know, I got the idea from a few department heads. They looked through and they tried to make cuts where they could, and they tried to make their department as most effective as possible. I asked one specific department, I said, you know, when you made this budget, did you go through this and cut every possible place you could cut? And my honest to God, in my brain, I thought this person was going to say, yes, we looked everywhere. The response was, no, I did not make the budget. I didn't do it. This is last year's budget. So, I mean, you sit back and you say, wow, did I just hear that correctly? And you know,
Points for honesty, man.
I'm like,
That's great.
wow, unbelievable.
But that's become such the practice. And it
Yeah, we
really
can't-
has to get back to that point of zero budgeting, where you
Yes.
justify
Right.
each and every expense every year.
And we do see towns in Connecticut that do base their entire budgets off of zero budgeting. You start off with $0, and then what do you need? Vernon does that. Nice big town. That's their system for budgeting. Now that creates a certain amount of unpredictability, right? Because there's gonna be certain years where there's going to be a big capital project, and they're going to decide if it's a pay as you go or what, or there's going to be a big expense, which is going to create some volatility in your taxes, but figuring out what a town actually needs versus just carrying forward. Well, that was my budget last year, and I've got to protect my turf.
Well, I will tell you the other thing. We need to start this whole budget conversation a lot earlier. We're starting it way too late. I mean, just seems like a couple meetings before we started into budgeting, we had people coming in with plans and needs or wants for gardens and lights and all kind of other stuff equaling over $1 million.
Yep.
You know, and then they get, well, the town needs it. Does the town need it or does the town want it at this point in time? Because, you know, there's been times in my own home where we've had to say no to a vacation or no, you know, to going out or doing the things that we wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Because you've got to get your finances in order. The one thing I do want to say is we are taking call-ins. So if you want to ask us questions, 860-456-1400. That is 860-456-1400. And we'll answer any question you have. So, you know.
It's being very generous of you, Mike.
That's right. We will answer the questions totally unfiltered.
So,
Brave man. Now, Chris, we've been talking about not having relief in sight with the state. I'm told that there might be some developments on that when it comes to property tax relief.
well, yeah, I did want to actually bring some breaking news, and I kind of presented this to you guys right before the show started. I was notified. This was a Government Administration and Elections Committee meeting where there was votes going on for bills that were being raised. And, in fact, one of the bills that was raised today and discussed in committee and then voted upon was House Bill 5407. And if you're not familiar with this one, this is an act concerning the state's reimbursement to municipalities for revenue that is lost due to property tax exemption for veterans that are totally or 100% disabled. So if a qualifying veteran has a 100% disability and therefore a state legislated property tax exemption, there was a vote today in the Government Administration and Elections Committee as to whether or not the state should reimburse the town. I absolutely agree that should be a state cost. That should not be something pushed on to the municipalities. I support veterans who are 100% disabled getting a tax exemption for their property taxes remaining here in Connecticut as long as they want.
And that makes sense that the state, that'd be the most equitable way to do that is from the state level there.
Yes, because we all contribute to that tax budget or that revenue budget of the state.
And they're protecting the whole state, whether or not they live in Voluntown or Wyndham. They're protecting all of us.
Yes, but when we look at it from the municipal level, do we want now less of a base to be looked at in consideration of our taxes? Why should this be something that now our municipality has to be responsible for? I think this absolutely, just like many of the other costs we've talked about from early voting and everything else, should be part of the state budget. Public benefits started part of the state budget. We should be able to have public hearing and debate on all this stuff. Well, it turns out this act that would provide for municipalities to receive reimbursement from the state to cover those property tax losses and that revenue that's lost due to disabled veterans, the senator for the 29th district voted no. That was just today.
Wow. That's our district.
We're the 29th district. Yep. That's our district.
Oh, no.
Our senator voted no to help disabled veterans who are property tax exempt from the state reimbursing these municipalities. So I feel that this is something that is very disappointing.
I don't remember her coming to a town meeting to ask whether or not that was something that we were on board with.
Not only not supporting the veterans, but also the municipality.
Yeah.
This puts the burden. Wow.
Once again, another unfunded mandate.
Unfunded mandate and pushed right on us from our own senator. Well, we're going to talk more about that when we come back on. We're going to take a quick break here on WILI 1400 AM and 95.3 FM. Tune back in. Welcome back to Unfiltered on WILI 1400 AM and 95.3 FM. We've got the call-in lines open, 860-456-1400. Just in case you thought it was April Fool's had come early or it was that show Punked. No, this is real stuff happening here. You heard it right. Our senator of the 29th district just today voted no in support of our veterans and relief of our towns, our taxpayers. And I don't understand the upside to doing this. These are disabled veterans. I just don't see where we could go wrong in state funding this tax issue. I don't get it.
I know. I was blown away by this also. That's why I brought it on as breaking news that I heard just before we came on the air here. What's been happening, people, if you've not been following this past week at the Connecticut General Assembly, has been wild. It started last Wednesday with public hearings on public health and homeschooling.
Okay.
Also some gun bills. We talked about this last Thursday on my show. Friday was when Government Administration and Elections held some of their hearings and continuing this week, and that's where I just heard about this particular vote that happened. And it specifically was state reimbursing the funds that a municipality within Connecticut might lose in revenue from property taxes that are exempt because the property owner is a 100% disabled veteran. And as Mike said, and as I said just before we went to the commercial break, our senator voted no for that. Some of the other things that are going on GAE, and as we kind of talk about some of these issues, I do want to tell everyone, we've talked about a lot of issues in the past couple of months as we've been getting into this legislative session, and even with the emergency session that happened at the end of last year. I've found a really easy way that if you want to be able to submit written testimony for any of these bills that we talk about in support or opposition, if you simply Google Connecticut GAE and then whatever committee your particular bill falls under, whether it's government administration and elections, education, judiciary, if you ask for that committee, it'll bring you right to that committee page. And as you scroll down right at the top, you'll see submit written testimony.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah, so these are really easy ways to do this. Please, if you support this is something that's really important because
So you
Google Connecticut
GAE.
GAE, so CTGAE, and then whatever committee you want to submit testimony to. So it's kind of difficult to figure out in some cases, but usually you can search Connecticut, an act concerning reimbursement for veteran tax exempt status.
Well, that's really good to know
So-
because it seems like
so
it's been
search
getting
that,
harder
yeah.
and harder to
Yep,
really
exactly.
get the word out there. Yeah.
It can be difficult to navigate that website.
Right.
And it's not done intentionally. It's just there's a lot of information there. And to be able to figure that out with the calendar of events, and also you really have to go to each committee page in order to find that stuff. But anyways, GAE has been meeting since last week, as I mentioned there. And I wanted to bring up a few of these things as like a preview, and I'll talk to these in a little bit more detail on Thursday's episode of Right Now. You can listen here on 95.3 FM WILI from 3 to 4 p.m. on Thursday. The first one is Senate Bill 463, and this is one that you might have heard about that's designed to prevent voter intimidation.
Well, we don't like that.
And
Okay.
yep. So a couple things that it's going to do. First, it's going to ban federal agents from detaining or arresting individuals near polling locations or standing outside to check voter eligibility.
Okay.
Now, I understand it that already in Connecticut, non-citizens are not allowed to participate in state or federal elections. So I'm not sure why this all of a sudden has
oh, geez, that's a good
becomes
point. Yeah,
such
why
a
would they
big-
be in the line in the first place?
Yeah,
Right.
so
I didn't think about that.
yeah, so little question there. But in addition to that, on Senate Bill 463, it makes it a crime to possess a weapon within 250 feet of an election site. Which, again, I don't want violence at our election centers, but do we need to impose another restriction on a lawful gun owner in Connecticut?
Right.
Are we, again, going to be? We already have a number of facilities where we don't carry them: courthouses, schools, municipal buildings. Many of them are the same places
I was
as
about to
polling
say, it
centers.
feels a little redundant,
but now we
yeah.
need to make specifically for this. So, okay, that's another part of it. Here's another one that I saw in Senate Bill 463. Local officials are to notify the Connecticut Attorney General's office if they receive a subpoena for ballots or other election records.
Oh, so they want to be known. Why would they want to know right away?
I'm sure damage control and to be able to obstruct, which we've seen the Connecticut Attorney General
Oh, sure.
become
that-
pretty proficient at in the past year. What I really see here is that we have not seen voter intimidation. I know that in the past few election cycles, I have literally visited every polling center within the 29th district and never saw a case of voter intimidation.
Yeah.
Right? What we have heard a lot about, however, is ballot fraud in Connecticut.
Yeah, we sure have.
In fact, we have a number of individuals in one particular municipality of Bridgeport who are facing literally hundreds of charges. We became a national embarrassment on
Yeah.
TV when the country saw someone grabbing handfuls of ballots out of a bag and shoving them into a ballot box.
Right.
We can do better than this,
Yes.
right?
Now that's great to bring up because we spend so much time, right, getting in the weeds talking about what the what the state legislator is doing, versus it's good that you're making time for saying that what they should be doing. Do we have a voter intimidation problem, or do we have a ballot fraud problem? What should our state legislator be focusing on?
Well, I can tell you, because I have a little bit more to talk about here with this. First, I do want to say that there is a bill that I do support. Okay, and this is Senate Bill 459. This one bans anyone convicted of election crimes from distributing absentee ballot applications for 12 years. I want to see stricter enforcement of election laws in Connecticut. We're hearing that some of these people in Bridgeport with multiple charges against them are pretty much getting a slap on the wrist. Like, so far, we've only heard one person so far that's being told that there's some prison time and it's probably going to be suspended. I haven't heard the deets of yet, but there's not much in stuff. So anything that strengthens our voting laws like that, I'm in favor of. And why would someone who's been distributing these absentee ballot applications be prevented for 12 years from handling them again unless there's a concern about absentee ballot fraud? And that's what brings me to House Bill 5001.
Okay.
Right? If you remember back to 2024, late 2024, Connecticut voters approved that no excuse absentee voting would become a constitutional amendment. It didn't pass in the House and the Senate chambers the way the vote had to go, but if it's brought up and voted on, even if it doesn't meet the threshold in 2 consecutive legislative sessions, it still becomes amended into the Connecticut Constitution, state constitution.
Okay.
So we will be having no excuse absentee voting beginning soon.
Wow.
Okay. Our senator has said that she is hopeful that no excuse absentee voting will lessen the influence campaign operatives have over the mail-in voting process.
How would
Because what we saw in many of these cases of ballot fraud with regard to absentee ballots was that you had campaign operatives who would go out, register people, and they saw that there was a high number that were elderly, sometimes cognitively disabled to the point that they really were lower informed voters.
Okay.
And might not be making a choice without some influencing otherwise.
Gotcha.
And this has been seen in investigations across the country. I've read a number of them, and I'll tell you a few things and examples in just 1 second. My concern with no excuse absentee ballot voting is that there is this potential where you could have somebody working for a campaign, not only going out and registering, but then also harvesting the votes later on.
Yeah.
There's questions about this happening in nursing homes, in group homes. One example that I saw was a local soup kitchen that had hundreds of people registered as that being their registered address to vote. Okay? There is a high potential for when fraud occurs, it happening during absentee ballot requests and then absentee ballot voting. Okay, we're going to see that. We're talking about in a second. Second, and this is important to also other legislation that's coming up, is that there's a high potential for delay in results.
Right.
Okay? What happens when all of the ballots cast aren't received by Election Day because of the fault of the U.S. Postal Service?
Yes.
When is the cutoff? Now, all of a sudden, do those votes not count? Or do we say, hey, you're the winner, but 3 days later, we received a handful of ballots in the mail, and now we have to say, time to recount. At what point are we, and at what point, with no excuse absentee ballot voting, is it placing an unnecessary burden on the registrar of voters who now are not only responsible for early voting, voting on Election Day, but now also no excuse absentee ballots, which might have numbered in a town like Wyndham, what do you think, 100, 200, a couple hundred, What happens if all of a sudden there's 1,500 or 2,000 because there's no excuse?
Yeah.
Are we now taking that into account in our budgetary expenditures for registrar of voters for that additional time that's involved?
Yeah, I mean that
and effort.
This last election season, that was it was quite a long night working on all those.
Yeah, it
on
was.
all those,
Now you add
absentee ballots. Yeah.
3 times the number of mail-in votes. Okay?
Wow.
So some concerns there. One of my big concerns also is once you have filled out your ballot and dropped it in the mail, I think that's too important to actually be sent through the mail. Would you, as a business owner, if somebody gave you a check, would you sign the check and then send it through the mail?
No, sir.
No.
If you won $1,000 on a scratch ticket, would you mail it to lottery headquarters and ask them to send you a check?
I think I'd take the time to drive it down.
Yeah. So I mean, like, if you feel that your vote is important, is it important enough to potentially get lost in the mail, or potentially get sucked into an automated mail machine in some processing center somewhere?
Hey, don't laugh.
Or-
I used to work on those machines. You lose more postcards than you could possibly
I
imagine.
know.
Yeah.
And there's human error in there. Like, it literally could blow out a mail truck's window. Right? Like, this is your vote. So
Exactly.
those are some big concerns to me. But I want to just tell you, with regard to fraud in absentee ballot voting, Florida's Department of Law Enforcement concluded that the lack of in-person at the polls accountability makes absentee ballots the tool of choice for those inclined to commit voter fraud.
Of course.
It is an easy loophole for them to exploit, I'm going to say.
Yeah, basic chain of custody issues between
Exactly.
who has had possession of that ballot by the time it got requested to the time it gets to the ballot box. That's you just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Illinois' Supreme Court recognized through several absentee ballot fraud cases that occurred during a Democratic primary in East Chicago that there was a predatory pattern of targeting first-time voters and those otherwise less informed or lacking knowledge in the election process to drive these types of absentee ballot voter registration and then harvesting of ballots in order to sway the outcome of elections. And finally, this was a critical report from the New York Times that was published that concluded that votes cast by mail are less likely to be counted, more likely to be compromised, and more likely to be contested than those cast at a polling center. And there's some very simple reasons for why, and one of them was something that Kimberly brought up last year on my show, and it's very simply that people sometimes have difficulty in filling out their ballot. And having someone there in person that they can ask for assistance can make all the difference.
Yeah,
Once
really
it's
amazing.
mailed in and it's due by a certain time, they get to look at it, they get to decide, was this really the person's intent in voting? And if not, that's it, your ballot doesn't count.
You know, Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because I would have never believed it until we did an audit, until we did a recanvass here in town at the last election here in Windham.
Yep.
And just the number of people that they just don't clearly understand how to fill out a ballot. Well, when you think about it, there's all kinds of interpretations. Do you circle your answers? Do you put an X through them? Do you put a check? Do you fill in a bubble? Well, the machine doesn't know if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And if you're here, if you're at the polls and you're delivering it, and the machine kicks it back out because you did something wrong, just like you said, you can ask for assistance or you can correct it yourself. Can't do that to put it in the mail.
Right. And to even take it one step further with the mail, there was a look at actually a statistical study that was done to determine the rate at which the U.S. Postal Service is able to accurately deliver ballot requests.
Okay.
So absentee ballot requests. And to be honest, even the numbers sound good, but where is it acceptable? What they said was that an audit of the mail processing facilities found that some centers were only able to reliably deliver 84.2% of the time.
Yeah, that's what people really don't understand is
Okay.
that you might live in a nice neighborhood where your mail is reliable. That, unfortunately, that's the reality, is that is not every zip code in the United States.
Yeah. And they look specifically at ballots, so the numbers do go up for these. So in 2018, they established a target of 96% timely delivery of ballots. So still even 4%, and you think about how many ballots that could be across the country are not delivered on time.
And a lot of elections swing on less than 4%.
Right. Only 95% of post offices were able to achieve that.
That's a shame.
So now you're looking at 4%, compounding that with 5%, and probably even more that fell well below. So you're really looking at statistics where there could be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of ballots that were inappropriately addressed, didn't make it somewhere on time, any number of factors.
Yeah,
so at what is acceptable? Like, for me, I want to see our elections, and I think with technology today, we should be close to 100%. 100% accuracy in our elections, knowing who voted, knowing that there aren't these little games that are being played.
Yeah.
I think it's important. So those are things that I wish were brought up
and
at the state level, but I don't think they are. I think it's in fact the exact opposite.
And when you really think about this, the people that are probably going to be affected are the same people that are being mostly affected by all these rise in costs of living.
Yes.
And that's the poorer communities, because they're the people that don't have the single mailbox in front of their home. They're the people that live in, apartment communities in different areas where, like you say, the mail is not as reliable for many, many reasons. So you would think that these are the people that you really want to protect, because, and you need to help them. And these are also the people a lot of times that do have questions and need assistance in filling ballots.
And this is just another way of making our local elections administration more complicated. The unfunded mandates, Chris, that you were talking about earlier, Mike, that you've been talking about during this show and over your shows here on Mondays. It's just one more layer that makes our elections more expensive, more complicated, more error prone. And I'm lucky Wyndham has great election officials. Our registrar's office is fantastic, but man, do they look tired after election day.
I also have another concern with regard to this, and it goes along with what you guys were just saying about certain communities that are affected by this. Think about chasing tenants that have moved from rental properties. There's a potential in a 4-year presidential cycle that you could literally have 4 tenants in an apartment.
Oh, yes.
There are some states that have automatic absentee ballot requests sent out.
Yeah, I've heard of this. Yeah.
Could you imagine getting to a point where you are trying to have the mail system chase people that could have moved twice in a 4-year period of time?
Twice.
Or more.
Here in this college town, yeah. I mean every year.
I mean, we see that. That's a common thing. I mean, a big thing I hear from the registrars is the fact that the constant moving,
the turnover
address, the turnover is incredible. It's not like when I grew up, you knew your neighbor, and it was the same people in the house for the last 40 years, and things have changed.
Oh yeah,
times have changed. You used to have a job. You got out of high school or college, whatever. You went to your job, and that was your career. Right there. And it's the same with residences. So. Yeah, it's just
even people buying houses. You're seeing them, for a while there until the market changed a little bit. They'd be buying a house, they'd be in it for a few years, and they move and buy another house.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, one last thing that I want to talk about. We got a few more minutes here, right?
Yeah, we do.
Nice.
I want to say congratulations to Connecticut. This is something else that was brought up in government administrations and elections.
There we go.
I want to wish a congratulations to Connecticut. You have achieved a 150% return rate on bottle deposits in the state of Connecticut.
So the bottles are just making more bottles, huh?
It is. It's like magic.
That's incredible.
You know, when two bottles decide that they fall in love, they start a family, and then the bottle stork comes. Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Is that where those little ones come from?
Oh, that's right, the little pony bottles.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
100% return rate on the deposit bottles.
150%.
150.
We are returning more bottles than we have taken deposits for by far. Okay?
And why
So-
would that be?
Well, I'm going to take you on a little history lesson
please.
here. A couple of years ago, we decided as a state legislature that going from 5 cents a return to 10 cents a return was going to make everybody return their bottles. It did. It also included all the people from Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New York that wanted to participate in our program.
100% profit, right?
So we now have an issue where we have people crossing the state line, returning their bottles over here in Connecticut, making a little profit, and then retreating back to their home state. Now,
It's hard to imagine that you could drive a vehicle big enough, filled with deposit bottles, that little extra 5 cents at a time would do it. But I guess somebody's done the math. I mean, 150% return rate means a lot of people must be coming from Rhode Island, New York.
wasn't there a Seinfeld episode about this when Michigan went to 10 cents?
Right. yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, anyways,
History repeats.
there is a bill in GAE that's going to be voted on, which attempts to crack down on the redemption fraud. Up to this point, they really didn't think that it was a big issue. We had no foreshadowing this was ever going to be a problem. So they originally set the fine for crossing the state line and redeeming your bottles at $50.
Let's quick math, guys. How many bottles is that to make it worth it? Everybody, come on, Matt.
Not that many.
I guess enough that fits in the back of a van. Yeah.
2 bags worth, you're still making a profit. Right? So they've now increased that fine to $500 to $750 for the first offense. That could go up to $2,500 and a misdemeanor charge that could land you a year in prison. Right?
So we're gonna get the police involved in this. All right, that's cool.
Yes,
There
that's
we
it.
go.
How are we going to do this? How are we going to enforce this? Because the state benefits to the tune of about $42 million a year from the unclaimed redemption money that they whack you for at the beginning that doesn't get brought back
I
in.
didn't think about that piece.
But this is why they're upset. Because now,
big money.
these people from Massachusetts and New York and Rhode Island are dipping into their little piggy
Nice,
bank.
yeah.
Right? So
And I'm sure they do the
So
same
the-
thing. So
yeah.
Rhode Island's not going to do anything to help us out.
oh, they're laughing about it. I've listened to the news reports.
Yeah, 'cause
they're like, hey, guess what
They
Connecticut's
get to
doing?
keep all that money on their side.
Sure, they
Win-win.
keep all
Yeah.
theirs, and
Yeah, their residents get richer,
Yep.
and they keep more money in their state coffers.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
what
Exactly.
a way to do it. That's incredible.
So the way that they've decided that they are going to enforce this is at the really big redemption centers where this is a problem, where, like you said, Curtis, the guys are driving in with the, Home Depot van full of bottle returns, or the U-Haul van full of bottle returns. They are going to now legislate that they can expend overtime to pay Connecticut state troopers to sit at a redemption center and check your identification as you're doing bottle returns.
You hear that, folks? You can put your bottle in that redemption machine at the end of a barrel of a gun.
Wow.
Well, these are generally the big redemption centers where you just come in and they do it by weight.
Okay, like they used to have down in South Wyndham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not one of the reverse vending machines, although the state wanted to put reverse vending machines at those facilities, which I think is insane. Can you imagine somebody bringing 4,000 bottle returns and having to stand there at a vending machine?
Right. And
Like, let's be honest, just like all the other things that the state of Connecticut does, nobody who is bringing thousands of bottle returns from Massachusetts or New York is going to listen. They're just going to wait until they get caught,
Oh yeah.
right? There's supposed to be a limit when you go to the grocery store of 240 bottles
Oh, I didn't know that.
at a visit. But you go there, and you could be waiting for 20 or 30 minutes for people to be doing bottle returns. So, I mean, we're really not correcting things. And my other example to this is the nips. They added the nip bottles, 5-cent return. Each year, I participate in the Clean Up Your Neighborhood in my hometown, pick up hundreds of those nip bottles. Okay? This was something that they should have foreseen, raising it from 5 to 10 cents, that would just be simply taken advantage of. The only way to get this under control is go back down to 5 cents and hopefully encourage people to increase the rate of bottle returns.
There you go.
That's right.
Okay? You can't do this 10 cents and then try and regulate it by making this a whole new division of the state police for bottle redemption fraud, because I'm afraid that in the incremental way that Connecticut does it, that's what's going to happen. Like we're gonna have more and more of these problems. So go ahead, Mike, take us out.
Well, that's
at the end
it.
of the episode here.
That's it for this week, and I am going to take this empty bottle that Matt gave me of water, return it from. That's it for us here on Unfiltered, WILI 1400 AM, 95.3 FM.